The addiction that is destroying marriages little by little. Have you ever noticed that your partner is by your side but seems to be somewhere else? That conversations have become monosyllables and dinners have turned into awkward silences? There is a silent addiction invading Brazilian homes right now. And no, we are not talking about drugs, alcohol, or gambling. It is something much more subtle, much more socially accepted, and precisely for this reason, much more dangerous. As you read this, thousands of marriages are being eroded from within, without spouses realizing the real culprit. It's like an invisible termite devouring the structures of a house. When you finally notice it, the damage is already devastating. Couples therapists are alarmed by the exponential increase in this problem in the last 5 years. The scariest thing? You're probably practicing this addiction right now, thinking it's harmless. And with each day that passes without acknowledging it, your relationship loses another piece of its essence. Get ready, because what you're going to discover can completely change your perspective on your marriage. 1. The silent invader. The cell phone has become the third element within modern weddings. It is present at all times, in bed when they wake up, at the table during breakfast, on the couch at night, and again in bed before bed. This constant presence is not accidental. It is the result of an intentional design created to capture and maintain our attention at any cost. Technology companies invest billions in research on human behavior. They hire the best neuroscientists, psychologists, and designers to create apps that exploit our neurological weaknesses. Every color, every notification sound, every animation has been carefully tested to make the maximum impact on our brain. The goal is simple: to make you compulsively pick up the device without even thinking. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and other social networks work through a system called variable reward. It works just like a slot machine. You never know what you're going to find when you open the app. It could be something interesting, it could be disappointing. This unpredictability keeps you coming back again and again, always hoping to find that dopamine that the right content provides. The blue light emitted by screens stimulates areas of the brain responsible for attention and alertness. Our nervous system interprets this light as if it were daytime, keeping us artificially awake and focused. That's why it's so hard to put down your phone even when you're exhausted. The device literally tricks our brain into believing that it needs to remain active and vigilant. Notifications are intentional interruptions that break any real connection moment. You're having an important conversation with your partner and that signature WhatsApp sound goes off. Immediately, his attention splits. Even if you don't pick up your cell phone at that moment, part of your mind is already curious about who sent the message, what the subject is, whether it is urgent or not. The worst thing is that we develop tolerance, as with any drug. In the beginning, checking your phone a few times a day was enough. Then it turned every hour. Therefore, every 15 minutes. Eventually, we get to the point of picking up the device dozens, sometimes hundreds of times a day, many of these checks completely unconscious and automatic. This compulsive behavior creates a pattern of perpetual distraction. Our brain loses the ability to maintain prolonged focus on any activity. He is constantly looking for the next stimulus, the next novelty, the next dopamine hit. And who pays the highest price is the relationship, which requires precisely what we have lost: full presence, sustained attention, and genuine emotional availability. 2. Screen versus real look. Social media has created a dangerous illusion of connection. You can have 500 friends on Facebook, 2,000 followers on Instagram, participate in 10 WhatsApp groups, and still feel deeply alone, because these digital connections are shallow in nature. It's superficial interactions that never replace the real look in someone's eyes that really matters. When we spend hours scrolling through the feed, we're consuming edited and filtered versions of other people's lives. No one posts the fights, the frustrations, the moments of boredom or sadness. We see only the highlights, the carefully staged joys. This creates a distortion in our perception of reality and makes our own relationship seem inappropriate by comparison. Instagram especially has become a stage for rehearsed performances. Couples post romantic photos that took half an hour to get the perfect angle, with passionate captions, while in real life they barely speak to each other. This dissonance between the projected image and the lived reality causes immense psychological stress. We are more concerned with documenting moments to prove that we are happy than with actually living them. TikTok and Instagram Reels are especially addictive because they deliver content in ultra-fast format. Your brain gets constant bursts of novelty, a funny video, then a helpful hint, then something shocking, all in a matter of seconds. This frenetic pace conditions your nervous system to expect instant gratification. Real conversations, which develop slowly and require patience, start to feel boring. YouTube traps through sophisticated algorithms that know you better than your own partner. You know exactly what kind of content will keep you glued to the screen. One video pulls up another, and before you know it, 2 hours have passed. That time that could have been used to talk, to go for a walk, to make love, simply disappeared in a spiral of passive consumption of information. Twitter and news apps keep you in a perpetual state of anxiety. There is always a new controversy, a new crisis, something urgent happening. Your brain is in constant alert mode, pumping cortisol, primed to react to threats that aren't actually real. This state of chronic stress depletes your emotional energy, leaving very little to invest in the relationship. Meanwhile, the real person next to you, the one who wakes up messy, who has real problems, who needs your attention and affection, is gradually being neglected. It has no filters, no editing, no quick doses of dopamine. It requires effort, vulnerability, presence, and to a brain conditioned by the instant gratification of social media, that seems like too much work. We prefer the artificial comfort of the screen to the wonderful complexity of a real human being. If you want to understand why you stay attached to what's destroying you, and how to break free from the unconscious cycles that keep repeating the same pain, go to the link pinned in the first comment. The Jung method will help you see it clearly. 3. Present but absent. Cell phone addiction works in a very similar way to other drugs. Every like, every comment, every view triggers dopamine in the brain. This neurotransmitter is the same one involved in addiction to cocaine, heroin, or compulsive gambling. The difference is that digital addiction is legal, socially accepted, and always available in your pocket. Neuroimaging studies show that the brains of people addicted to technology show structural changes similar to those found in drug addicts. The area responsible for impulse control is compromised. The ability to defer gratification decreases. The prefrontal cortex, which regulates decision-making and social behavior, shows reduced activity. It is not an exaggeration to compare it with traditional drugs. The withdrawal syndrome is also real. When someone tries to stay away from their cell phone for a few hours, physical symptoms arise: anxiety, irritability, restlessness, difficulty concentrating. His hands itch to pick up the device. You feel an emptiness, as if you are missing something important. This discomfort is so intense that most people give in quickly and revert to compulsive use. The phenomenon of nomophobia, fear of being without a cell phone, reaches alarming levels. People panic when they forget their device at home. They check their pockets compulsively even though they know their cell phone is there. They wake up in the middle of the night to check notifications. This obsessive behavior completely interferes with the ability to be present for the partner. The dopamine released by social media creates a vicious cycle. You post something and wait anxiously for the reactions. Each like brings a small wave of pleasure. When the likes stop coming, you feel a drop, an emptiness. Then he goes back to compulsively checking, hoping for more validation. This emotional roller coaster happens several times a day, consuming energy that should go into the relationship. Messaging apps create an expectation of constant availability. You see that the person viewed your message but didn't respond immediately, and you start creating stories in your head. Why didn't you respond? Are you ignoring? Are you angry? This anxiety permeates all relationships. Within marriage, this translates into silent demands and accumulated resentment. Cell phone use in bed is particularly destructive. That intimate moment before bed, which should be reserved for connection with the partner, becomes another scrolling session. Blue light suppresses melatonin production, impairing sleep. You get tired, irritable, without energy for intimacy. And the cycle repeats itself day after day as the relationship slowly dies of emotional starvation. 4. Brain addicted to likes. The brain's reward system has been hijacked by technology in ways that our ancestors could never have imagined. Dopamine was released when we found food, when we reproduced, when we established important social bonds for survival. Now, this same neurological circuit is activated dozens of times an hour through completely artificial and empty stimuli. Each time you get a like, your brain interprets it as social approval. Evolutionarily, approval of the group meant security, protection, and increased chances of survival. Therefore, validation on social networks touches on deeply primitive needs. The problem is that this validation is superficial, ephemeral, and never really satisfactory. It's like eating sugar when you need protein. It gives you quick energy, but leaves you malnourished. Instagram has created a culture of destructive comparison. You see seemingly perfect couples, incredible trips, sculptural bodies, spectacular achievements. Your brain automatically compares your ordinary life to these edited highlights of others. This generates chronic dissatisfaction with their own relationship, their body, their achievements. Nothing looks good enough because you are competing with a carefully constructed illusion. TikTok has explored the science of addiction to the extreme. Very short videos deliver humor, surprise, emotion in ultra-concentrated doses. Your brain barely processes one stimulus when it already receives the next. This trains your nervous system to have a dwindling attention span. Watching an entire movie becomes an impossible task. Having a 30-minute conversation without distractions feels like torture. The relationship, which requires sustained attention, becomes incompatible with this new brain configuration. YouTube and Netflix use machine learning algorithms that study your behavior in real time. They identify patterns that you yourself are unaware of. They know when you're most vulnerable, what kind of content is going to hook you at that particular moment. It's an unfair battle between your willpower and supercomputers programmed by geniuses to defeat exactly that willpower. Facebook has found that outrage-generating content keeps people engaged longer. Therefore, the algorithm prioritizes controversial posts, news that cause anger, heated discussions. You go inside for a quick peek and leave 2 hours later, nervous and drained, having quarreled with strangers over irrelevant matters. All that emotional energy is wasted on virtual conflict while the real problems of your marriage are ignored. WhatsApp has created groups that work as mini social networks. You belong to groups in the family, work, friends, children's school. Notifications are constant. There is always someone sending messages, sharing memes, starting discussions. Their attention is fragmented into 10 simultaneous conversations. By the time you're finally with your partner, you've already spent all your social energy on superficial digital interactions. There is nothing left for the person who really matters. 5. When intimacy died. The changes in behavior caused by screen addiction are gradual but devastating. In the beginning, it was only a few minutes here and there. Now studies show that the average person spends more than 5 hours a day on their cell phone. This means that during years of relationship you spent more time looking at a screen than looking at your partner. Let it sink in. More time with your phone than with the one you swore to love. The first behavior that changes is the quality of listening. In the old days, when your partner spoke, you actually listened. Now you hear half as you mind wander thinking about what you saw on Instagram, or as your fingers itch to check notifications. This is noticeable. The other person feels that it doesn't matter, that anything on the internet is more interesting than them. This wound accumulates, day after day, until it creates a deep crack in the relationship. Irritability increases alarmingly. When someone is addicted to screens, any interruption causes a disproportionate reaction. If your partner asks for attention while you're on your phone, you respond with hostility, as if you're being unfairly harassed. This defensive behavior is identical to that of any addict when someone tries to interfere with access to their drug of choice. The ability to cope with boredom disappears completely. Moments of comfortable silence, which were once opportunities for quiet connection, now cause unbearable anxiety. You immediately pick up your phone to fill any voids. It eliminates the spaces where intimacy used to flourish. Those moments with no agenda, no purpose, just two human beings sharing presence. Eye contact becomes rare. You notice when you try to recall the last time you actually looked into your partner's eyes for more than a few seconds. It was probably days, maybe weeks. The eyes are always turned downwards, fixed on that hypnotic screen. And without eye contact, without deep looking, emotional connection just doesn't happen. It's impossible to maintain intimacy with someone who never really looks at you. Sex life collapses. First, for the lack of time and energy. You're exhausted from spending hours scrolling through endless feeds. Then, by the decrease in desire, it is difficult to feel attraction for someone who constantly ignores you. Finally, even when sex happens, there is a lack of presence. The mind is elsewhere, thinking about the next post, the next check. The body is there, but the soul is absent. The most tragic thing is the loss of spontaneity. Everything needs to be photographed, posted, documented. A romantic moment is not fully experienced because half of the attention is at the right angle for the photo. A yummy dinner is interrupted to capture the perfect image. Even trips, which should be opportunities for reconnection, become only expeditions to collect content for social networks. You stop living your life and just start performing it for an invisible audience that, deep down, doesn't really care. 6. Partners became strangers. The most disturbing change in behavior is how you know more about the lives of people you've never seen in person than you do about your own partner. He knows intimate details of influencers he follows. Follow every celebrity drama. He knows the political opinions of dozens of people in WhatsApp groups. But you don't know what your spouse is feeling, what your current fears are, what keeps you up at night. Facebook and Instagram create fake versions of each other. You post smiling photos, carefully selected moments that suggest a perfect marriage. Your partner does the same. Your friends comment on how beautiful you are a couple, how lucky you are. But this constant performance for the external audience creates an even greater distance between you. They are so busy maintaining the illusion that they forget to take care of reality. The conversations boil down to sharing links and memes. Instead of telling the truth, you send a funny TikTok video. He responds with a meme. You communicate through content created by others, even outsourcing humor and connection. Self-words, original thoughts, genuine feelings are imprisoned because they have lost the habit of expressing them directly. Twitter and political social networks create divisions that did not exist before. You spend hours debating with strangers, becoming more and more polarized in your opinions. When your partner disagrees even slightly, you react with the same aggression you use online. Respectful dialogue, the ability to disagree with love, all of this is lost. It matters more to be right than to be connected. YouTube creates parallel universes. He watches channels on one subject, you watch on a completely different one. The algorithms push you in opposite directions, creating separate bubbles of information and interest. Soon, you have nothing else in common to talk about. They do not watch the same programs, are not interested in the same themes, live in completely different informational realities. WhatsApp groups create tribes that exclude the partner. You have your private conversations where you share frustrations about the relationship, seek validation, receive advice from people who only know your side of the story. These echo chambers amplify small problems until they become crises. Instead of resolving issues directly with those who matter, you keep feeding negative narratives with third parties. The cruelest game of social media is how it makes you invest emotional energy in superficial connections while neglecting the deep connection you have at home. You respond to messages from acquaintances in seconds but leave your partner in the void. He reacts to the stories of dozens of people, but forgets to ask how his day was. He comments on the photos of strangers but does not praise the real person next to him. And slowly, that real person becomes a stranger because you've chosen to invest your attention, your most precious resource, anywhere but where you're supposed to. 7. Signs you ignored. The first clear sign is the exponential increase in screen time. You can check this in your mobile settings. When it started, it was maybe 2 hours a day. Now it's 5, 6, sometimes 8 hours. That's a third of waking life glued to a screen. If it were any other substance consuming that amount of time, it would be obvious that there is a serious problem. But because it's digital, you rationalize, minimize, deny. Another glaring sign is the inability to be without the cell phone for short periods. You go to the bathroom and take the device. He goes to the kitchen to prepare coffee and is already checking Instagram. You literally can't go 10 minutes without checking. This compulsive behavior is not normal, it is pure chemical dependence. Your brain is so conditioned that the mere idea of separation causes physical anxiety. Fights over cell phone use have become frequent. Your partner complains that you're always distracted, always on the device. You aggressively defend yourself, deny that it is a problem, accuse yourself of exaggeration. This furious denial is a classic symptom of addiction. When someone touches the wound, when they question your problematic behavior, you attack instead of reflecting. Just like any addict would. You started hiding the use. Stay up late in the bathroom scrolling Instagram so that the partner doesn't see. Lowers the brightness of the screen when you're in bed to be more discreet. Deletes browsing history. This covert behavior indicates that you know deep down that you are wrong. But addiction is stronger than moral judgment, so you hide it instead of stopping. The priorities were completely reversed. You cancel real plans to stay at home watching series, would rather interact online than hang out with their partner. Choose to scroll TikTok instead of having a conversation. When confronted, he always has an excuse. He's tired. Tomorrow you'll do something nice. Just a few more minutes. But that tomorrow never comes, and those few minutes turn into hours. The most devastating sign is when you realize that you miss your phone more than your partner. When he is away from technology, immediate anxiety hits. When she is away from him, she does not always notice. He manages to go the whole day without exchanging a meaningful word and not missing any of them. But 15 minutes without checking notifications seems like unbearable eternity. If this is not an alarm screaming that something is deeply wrong, nothing else is. 8. Rebuilding the royal wedding. The first step, the hardest of all, is to admit that you have a problem. Do not minimize, do not justify, do not compare with others who use it even more. Simply acknowledging, I've developed a screen addiction that's destroying my relationship. This honest admission, preferably made out loud to your partner, opens the door to real change. Without it, any attempt at improvement will be superficial and temporary. Establishing concrete and specific limits is fundamental. There is no point in promising vaguely and generically that you will use less. It needs clear rules. Cell phones out of the room all night, stored in another room. No screens during meals, no exceptions. At least an hour a day of face-to-face conversation with no digital interruptions. Weekends with designated periods totally free of technology. Write down those rules. Put them in the fridge. Commit yourself publicly. Uninstalling problematic apps may be necessary. If you spend hours on Instagram and it's eating away at your marriage, it might be time to delete it. Yes, it's drastic. Yes, it will hurt at first. But your relationship is worth more than any social network. You have survived decades without these platforms. You can survive without them again. If you can't delete it, at least remove it from the home screen. Turn off all notifications. Replace digital habits with rituals of real connection. Every time you feel like reaching for your phone when you're with your partner, force yourself to make physical contact instead. Hold your hand, give a hug, cuddle. Create anchors. When you get home, 5 minutes of eye-to-eye conversation before doing anything else. Before going to sleep, 15 minutes talking about the day, with no devices around. Seeking professional help is not shame, it is wisdom. Individual therapy can help to understand the psychological roots of addiction. Couples therapy offers a safe space to rebuild communication and intimacy. There are even support groups for technology addiction. Yes, they exist and they work. You don't have to fight alone against a problem that has been scientifically designed to be difficult to overcome. Rediscover activities that connect you without digital intermediation. Walking together without a cell phone, just talking and observing the world. Cooking in partnership, tasting spices, laughing at mistakes, dancing in the room, even without music or with low music coming from a radio, not from individual cell phones. Read together, each one their own book, but on the same sofa, sharing their presence. These activities seem silly until you try it and realize how powerful they are. Constantly remind yourself why. You're not doing it to punish yourself or because someone told you to. He is doing it because he wants to save something precious that is being lost. Because there is a real, imperfect, wonderful person who deserves your full attention. Because life happens off the screen, in the glances exchanged, in the gentle touches, in the deep conversations, in the comfortable silences. Because at the end of life, no one wishes they had spent more time on Instagram and less time with the one they loved. This regret is real, documented, devastating, and you still have a chance to avoid it, if you choose to act now.